He smiled when they took him away, even with handcuffs on, even after everything he did to me. That smile still burns in my head. Like he was proud of what he'd done. People in the courtroom kept whispering, cameras flashing, papers shuffling. But all I saw was him. The man who once said he loved me. The same man who almost destroyed my life. Guilty, the judge said. The word echoed in my ears, but it didn't feel real. Everyone thought it was over. They thought justice was served. But what they didn't know was that this wasn't the end. It was only the start, because I hadn't told anyone the full story. Not the judge. Not the lawyers. Not even the police. There were things that happened. Things I never said out loud. And if people knew what I did, they'd never see me the same again. 3 years ago, I thought I had it all. A small apartment, a job that paid the bills, and a man who made me feel like I finally mattered. His name was Ryan. He was charming, funny, and confident, the kind of guy who made everyone like him. My friends used to say he was too perfect. I should have listened. At first, everything felt magical. He'd bring me flowers, leave sweet notes, hold my hand like I was the only one in the world. He said I was his everything, and I believed him. But slowly, things started to change. He'd ask who I was texting. He'd get angry if I didn't answer fast enough. If I went out with friends, he'd call 100 times. Then he'd apologize, say it was just because he loved me too much. That's how control hides. It dresses up as love. The first time he hit me, it shocked us both. He froze, then broke down crying, begging me to forgive him. He said it would never happen again, and I wanted to believe him so badly that I did. After that, I started walking on eggshells. I laughed when he laughed, stayed quiet when he was angry, and did everything I could to keep the peace. But peace doesn't exist when you're living with fear. One night I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized who I was. I wasn't the woman I used to be. I was a shadow of her. And right then, I whispered to myself, "This can't be love." I didn't know it yet. But that night, Ryan was already planning something that would destroy everything I had left. After that night, things between us felt off. Ryan became colder, quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that made your stomach twist. He started staying out late, saying work was crazy busy. His phone was always face down, always locked. When I asked questions, he'd flip it back on me. "Why don't you trust me?" he'd say, acting like I was the problem. It's crazy how guilt works. He broke me, and yet I was the one always apologizing. Then one day, I noticed something strange. A message popped up on his laptop while he was in the shower. Just one line. "Can't wait to see you again tonight." My hands started shaking. I stared at that message for a long time, my heart pounding in my throat. I didn't want to believe it, so I didn't. I convinced myself it was just a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew. That week, he grew distant. He'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. He'd tell new stories that didn't match. And when I finally confronted him, he laughed. Actually laughed. Like I was some crazy woman making things up. He said, "You'd be nothing without me." That's when something inside me snapped. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something colder, realization. I started noticing more signs. Hidden calls, deleted texts, receipts from restaurants I'd never been to. Every piece started fitting together like a cruel puzzle. And one night, when I followed him, I finally saw the truth with my own eyes. He wasn't just cheating. He was building a new life. Without me. I remember that night like it's burned into my skin. I sat in my car across the street, watching Ryan through the cafe window. He wasn't alone. She was sitting across from him, laughing, touching his hand the way I used to. He looked happy. Happier than I'd seen him in months. For a moment, I couldn't even move. I just sat there, frozen, watching the man I gave everything to, build a new world that didn't include me. When he kissed her, it felt like something inside me shattered. Not just my heart, my sense of worth, my trust, my hope. Everything I had believed about love died right there. I wanted to run inside and scream. But instead I drove home. And for the first time, I didn't cry. I just sat in the dark, staring at the wall, trying to understand how someone could destroy you and still sleep peacefully at night. I kept hearing his voice in my head. You'd be nothing without me. Maybe that's when the idea started. Quiet, small, like a whisper in the back of my mind. At first it scared me, but the more I thought about everything he'd done, the more that whisper turned into something else, something stronger. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was focus. I realized I couldn't let him win, not after everything he took from me. So that night I made a promise. Not to forgive, not to forget, but to make him feel everything he made me feel. He had no idea the woman he broke was about to rebuild herself, piece by piece, and come for everything he cared about. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. My eyes were swollen, my face pale, my heart hollow. But for the first time, I didn't see a victim. I saw someone who was done being weak. I quit my job a week later, packed my things, moved to a new apartment across the city, somewhere Ryan didn't know. He tried calling a few times, but I never picked up. He didn't deserve my voice anymore. At first, it was hard. I had nothing. No friends, no confidence, no plan. But little by little, I started rebuilding. I took a night course in accounting. I worked 2 jobs. And when I wasn't working, I was learning. About business. About people. About him. Because I knew one thing. Ryan's weakness had always been greed. He couldn't survive without control or attention. So while he was busy showing off his new life online, I was quietly building mine, one step at a time, every late night. Every small win, every quiet tear, it all became part of the plan. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, not even my mom. The less people knew, the better. And slowly, I became someone new, smarter, stronger, colder. The version of me he never thought could exist. He thought he destroyed me. But really, he created something he'd never be able to handle. Because the woman he left behind was gone, and the one standing in her place was coming for him. It had been almost a year since I'd seen him in person. By then, Ryan was running a small marketing company, flashy online, messy underneath. I knew because I'd been watching. Late at night, I'd scroll through his posts, pretending not to care. But behind every like, every comment, I saw exactly what kind of man he'd become. Greedy, careless, desperate to look successful. That's when I saw it. A job posting. His company was hiring an assistant accountant. I laughed when I read it. Because who do you think got the job? Of course, I used a different name, a different look. Simple glasses, darker hair, new voice tone. It wasn't hard. People only see what they want to see. Walking into that office for the first time, I felt my heart race. He was there, sitting at his desk, the same confident smirk I remembered. But when he looked up, he didn't recognize me. Not even for a second. I smiled politely, pretending to be nervous. He smiled back, that fake, charming smile I once thought was love. "Welcome to the team," he said. If only he knew who he just hired. Days passed. I kept my distance, stayed quiet, and watched. Every time he boasted in meetings or flirted with someone new, I took mental notes. He was sloppy with money, even sloppier with people. And piece by piece, I began collecting everything I'd need to bring him down. Sometimes I'd go home, sit on my couch, and ask myself if I was going too far. But then, I'd remember the nights I cried alone, thinking I wasn't enough. And suddenly, I didn't feel guilty anymore, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about taking back what he stole, my power. Working under Ryan felt strange. Every morning I had to smile and say good morning to the man who once ruined my life. But inside, every word burned like fire. He still talked to me the same way he talked to everyone, like he was better, smarter, untouchable. He'd bark orders, make jokes at my expense, and then flash that fake charm when others were watching. No one dared to stand up to him. But I wasn't no one anymore. I played my role perfectly. Quiet, polite, invisible. That's what made it easy to move around without raising suspicion. I learned how his system worked, where he hid money, who he trusted, what his weak spots were. He had been cutting corners, taking clients' funds, moving money into hidden accounts under fake names. And I had proof. One night, after everyone left, I stayed behind. I told security I was finishing reports. What I was really doing was copying files, documents that could destroy him if they ever went public. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. This was what I'd been working toward for a year. As I walked out that night, the cold air hit my face. For the first time in so long, I felt something close to peace, because now I finally had power over him. The next few weeks, I started planning small doubts. A missing report here, a misplaced transaction there, things that made him look careless in front of clients. He started losing his temper, shouting, blaming others, paranoid that someone was out to get him. He just didn't know that someone was standing right in front of him, quietly smiling. He created a monster the day he broke me, and now that monster was walking freely inside his office. Everything was falling into place. Clients were turning on him, investors were backing out, and Ryan, the man who once acted like nothing could touch him, was slowly unraveling. He started showing up late, drinking during work hours. I'd catch him staring blankly at his computer, sweating, muttering under his breath. It was working. Every trap, every move. But something unexpected started happening. The more broken he looked, the less satisfaction I felt. One afternoon, I walked into his office with a fake report. His hands were shaking as he reached for it. He looked tired, smaller somehow. For a split second, I saw the man I used to love. Not the monster he became, but the human beneath it. And that scared me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how far I'd come and what I'd turned into. I wasn't sure if I was winning anymore or if I was just becoming another version of him. The next day, I almost deleted all the files, the proof that could destroy his life. Almost. But then I remembered the way he had laughed when I begged him to tell me the truth. The way he told people I was crazy after cheating on me. The way he made me question my own worth. And just like that, my heart hardened again. This wasn't guilt. This was justice. He didn't deserve peace. Not after the chaos he left behind in me. So I decided to finish what I started. But I had no idea that someone else had already started watching me too. It started with a message. A single email. No name, no signature, just one line. "You're not as invisible as you think." I froze. For a second I thought it was spam. But then I noticed the attachment. A photo of me, sitting at my desk late at night, copying files from Ryan's system. My hands went cold. Someone had seen me. I looked around the office the next day, pretending everything was fine, but inside I was panicking. Who took that photo? When? How? Every time someone looked my way, my stomach twisted. Was it one of Ryan's partners? The security guard? Or worse, Ryan himself? That evening I stayed behind again, checking the cameras in the hallway. Most of the footage was gone. Deleted. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. As I sat there, my phone buzzed again. Another message. "If you want this to stay quiet, meet me tomorrow. 8 p.m. Old coffee shop on 5th. I stared at it for a long time. This was supposed to be my game, my revenge, my control. But now, someone else was holding the cards. Part of me wanted to run. But another part, the same part that had rebuilt herself from ashes, refused to be scared again. So I showed up the next night. And when I walked into that dim coffee shop, my heart nearly stopped. Because the person sitting there wasn't a stranger. It was someone I once trusted more than anyone in the world. I stood frozen at the door. The person sitting in front of me was Emma, my closest friend from college. The one who held me when I cried after Ryan's betrayal. The only person I thought I could still trust. "Sit down," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes told a different story. Sharp, cautious, almost sad. I sat. My hands were trembling, but I tried not to show it. "How did you find me?" I asked, Emma sighed. "You think you can disappear that easily?" "I've been watching you for months," I blinked. "Why?" She leaned forward. Because I know what you're doing. I saw the files, the reports, everything. You think you're punishing him, but you're playing with fire." Her words hit hard. "You don't understand, Emma. You didn't live through what he did to me." "I know exactly what he did," she said. "I was there when you fell apart. But this..." She pointed at me, voice breaking. "This isn't you." For a second, I didn't know what to say. I wanted to defend myself, but deep down, part of me knew she was right. Still, I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when I was this close. "Emma," I said slowly, "you don't have to be part of this. Just stay out of it." She shook her head. "You think he's the only one who'll get hurt? If those files go public, it'll destroy more people than you realize. He has investors, employees. I don't care." I snapped. The whole cafe went silent. For a moment, I saw pity in her eyes, the kind that burns worse than anger. She whispered, "Then you've already lost yourself, Ava." I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out without looking back. But as I stepped into the cold night, one thought haunted me. What if she was right? The next few days felt like a blur. I tried to focus, to pretend everything was normal, but inside, I was falling apart. Emma's words kept replaying in my head. "You've already lost yourself." Maybe she was right. Maybe this revenge had turned me into someone I didn't recognize anymore. But before I could even decide what to do next, everything started falling apart faster than I could control. Ryan called an emergency meeting one morning. His voice was loud, panicked. Someone had leaked part of the financial documents. Not all of them. Just enough to make him look guilty. But I hadn't done it. Not yet. I sat there quietly while everyone accused each other. My heart was racing. Who else had access? Who would have sent those files? Ryan slammed his hands on the table. "Find out who's behind this, or you're all fired." The room fell silent. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. That night, I went home and opened my laptop. My files were gone, deleted. Every copy, every folder, and then another email came through. "You think you're in control, Ava. But you're not." It was the same anonymous sender, the one who had blackmailed me before. Only this time there was a new photo attached. Ryan, sitting in his office, looking at a printed picture of me. My blood ran cold. He knew. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands shaking. For so long, I'd dreamed of seeing him suffer. But now that the tables were turning, I felt something I hadn't expected. Fear. He wasn't the same careless man I remembered. He was angry, cornered, and dangerous. And I realized too late, revenge doesn't end when you win. It ends when you survive. I knew he would come. The only question was when. It happened 3 nights later. I came home to find my apartment door slightly open. My stomach dropped. I pushed it open slowly, heart pounding. And there he was. Ryan, sitting in the dark on my couch, holding a stack of printed papers. "My papers, long time no see," he said, his voice low, calm. Too calm. For a second, neither of us spoke. The silence was thick, electric. "How long have you known?" I asked quietly. He smirked. "Long enough to watch you dig your own grave." He stood up, stepping closer. "You really thought you could destroy me and walk away?" I swallowed hard, forcing myself to meet his eyes. "You already destroyed me once." "I just returned the favor." He laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. "You think I'm scared of you? You're still the same weak girl who begged me not to leave." That hit harder than I wanted it to. But this time I didn't flinch. "I was weak," I said, "but not anymore." He took another step forward, his voice rising. "You ruined everything! My company, my reputation." I cut him off. "You ruined yourself, Ryan. I just turned on the lights." He froze. For the first time, he had no words, and then slowly, he set the papers on the table. "I could destroy you too," he said softly. "All it takes is one call." I looked him in the eye and said, "Then do it." We stood there, 2 broken people staring at each other, both realizing how far we'd fallen. The room felt heavy, like every bad memory was hanging in the air. Finally, he whispered, "You really hate me that much?" I shook my head. "No, I hate the person I became because of you." He stared at me for a long moment, and then he left. No yelling, no threats, just silence. I locked the door behind him, my hands trembling. And when I turned around, I didn't cry. Because for the first time, I finally felt free. I knew Ryan wouldn't sit quietly after what I did. For weeks, I prepared in silence. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I just wanted the truth to breathe. But Ryan found out. Before I could make my move, he struck first. He filed a case against me, accused me of stealing his company data, of trying to ruin his name. It was his final play, and everyone believed him. The courtroom was packed. Everyone whispered my name like I was already guilty. Ryan sat across from me. Sharp suit, fake confidence, and that smug smile I once mistook for charm. He looked calm, proud even, like he'd already won. And for a while, it looked like he had. His lawyer spoke for almost an hour, painting me as a bitter ex who couldn't move on. A jealous woman who wanted to ruin a successful man's life. Every sentence felt like a knife, cutting through everything I'd built. The judge asked if I had anything to say in my defense. I stood up slowly. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "Your Honor," I said, "he's right about one thing. I did get those files. But not to hurt him. To show you the truth." Ryan's smirk widened, as if he knew I was walking into my own trap. But then I took a deep breath and handed the clerk a flash drive. "This," I said, "is a copy of the accounts Ryan didn't want anyone to see." The courtroom went quiet. The judge plugged it in within seconds. The screen filled with numbers, fake names, and offshore transfers. Every single illegal deal Ryan had ever made. All under his signature, he jumped from his seat. "That's fake. She made that up." But it was too late. The judge had already called in the forensic experts. Every document was real. Ryan's lawyer went pale. The crowd started whispering again, this time about him. The judge leaned forward, voice firm. "Mr. Carter, do you have any explanation for this?" Ryan stammered, words tripping over themselves. "I didn't. This is taken out of context." But the truth was already out. The man who tried to destroy me he thought the courtroom would be my end. But it became his.